Now, you may or may not be wondering why this series is starting off with Damian Lillard. Hold on, give it a second, think about it. You got this. You probably knew, alright? He ended the whole Oklahoma City Thunder franchise. Russell Westbrook is now a member of the Houston Rockets, and Paul George is now a member of the Los Angeles Clippers. And, well, that kind of ends a 10-year, decade dynasty by the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were consistently a top team in the league. They never really dwindled down anywhere below, like, playoff contention. And, well, in return, they got an aging Chris Paul. Now, is that all they got? Hell no. They got a lot of other stuff. But we'll get into that, all right? But first off, the guy who's going to be the best player on this team, Chris Paul, he's still, like I said, the best player on this team, and he's pretty solid still, but he's still aging, old, injury prone, and, well, yeah, that's all his downsides. But he's still got a jump shot, he still has some mid-ranges, and he can still play some really good defense, and he's a pretty good playmaker. So, am I mad that Chris Paul's here? Hell no. Is he mad that he's here? Probably. Let me not also forget to mention that his contract is disgusting, so maybe I'm a little bit mad, alright? Steven Adams, nothing really to be mad at here with him. I have no type of anticipation to trade him at all because he's so good exactly at what he does, which is rebounding, defense, and even some inside scoring at times. But here's where things get interesting. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the main piece, the main young piece that this team acquired within those couple of trades they made with Paul George and Russell Westbrook, and, well, this guy can play, alright? He's young, he's kind of raw at basically everything, but he's good at everything for the most part. He's just not completely developed in anything just yet, but he has no, like, specific weaknesses, really. He's just kind of developing still as a young player. He's kind of like the generic 2K created player rookie that would just kind of come in and get better over year to year, but isn't really killing you in year one or year two maybe even. But as of right now, I'm just hoping that Chris Paul can bring this kid up into what he can possibly be. His wingspan, if you haven't noticed it from these clips, is like insane. He could be a really good defender, which Chris Paul obviously is, and on top of that, he's a pretty solid shooter himself too. So I have high hopes for him for sure, and I have zero plans to trade him at all from this Oklahoma City team throughout this series. Next up on the list is Danilo Gallinari, who was acquired from the Los Angeles Clippers in the Paul George trade along with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and this guy is coming off a career year where he also played the most games he's played in since 2013, so he has some high upside going into the season. Do I expect him to be some sort of, or even just as good as he was last year? Probably not, but it's possible. I mean, he could get some more touches considering that, well, Chris Paul could get injured for like 30 games out of nowhere, but nonetheless, I'm happy to have him on the team because he gives us probably our number one scoring option at this point because, well, he's 6'9" and can score from virtually anywhere on the offensive end. Now, this guy right here, Andre Roberson, I don't know what the hell happened to him these past few years. He hasn't played much. Even when he did play, he was never a good offensive player, but he's back now because it's 2K and they can't really accurately depict when he's coming back because nobody knows when he's coming back, so he's just back, alright? And Andre Roberson, well, he's going to be off our bench to play as a spot defender type of role that we can bring in to clamp up, or maybe clamp up, guys like LeBron, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden. But I'll probably opt for some more offense in the starting five at the 3 position because we already have defense with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, of course Chris Paul, and then Steven Adams, so they're all pretty solid defenders. But with Roberson, well, like I said, nobody's really seen him anywhere but Rachel Demita's Instagram posts, and that's all he's really, yeah, that's really all I've got for Andre Roberson, honestly. Do I plan on keeping him around long term? I don't really know yet. We have to see how his offense fares in the NBA. But the starting 3 is Terrence Ferguson, all right? And Terrence Ferguson, well, he's a really solid 3-and-D player. I was kind of surprised by how well he is at the 3-and-D role because he's got a high 70s three-point shot and a high 70s on-ball defense. So he's still only like a 70 overall, but I'm valuing him pretty high in terms of his potential throughout this series because he's got like the perfect mold of the guy who I'd want to keep at the 3 position for the long run or maybe even off the bench in the future. There just isn't really much to say about Nerlens Noel. He's a good shot blocker, defender, and rebounder, and all that stuff. He doesn't provide too much of a drop-off from Steven Adams, which is a very good thing just in case Adams ever gets hurt, and we need someone to fill in, or just, you know, being off the bench and having to play a lot of minutes throughout the game. He's also pretty athletic, so that's good. But, like I said, not really much to say about him. I'm happy we have him, though. Darius Bazley, the team's first-round pick in this year's draft, the 2019 draft, and, well, I'm actually pretty excited to see how this guy can pan out. Now, I'm going to use him in the rotation from the day one of this series, and it's because he's just like Terrence Ferguson in a way. He's a pretty solid 3-point shooter. He's athletic, so I'm not going to shy away from trying to develop him straight out the gates because, well, that's exactly what the series is going to be about, really, development. Dennis Schroeder, not really the biggest fan of his game, honestly, especially because his jump shot is disgusting in 2K. But all in all, he's a pretty quick point guard. He can play make and he can score a little bit. So he's cool for now off the bench. I'll probably explore offers for him at some point in this series because I just don't think he's really the guy you want like anywhere on your team because he's not really the greatest three-point shooter. But all in all, I'm cool with Dennis Schroeder for now, all right? He could score a little bit. Hamidou Diallo, who I'll never pronounce the first name of again because it's really annoying to pronounce, and I don't know if I said it right. But he's very athletic. He can dunk on everybody. I think he won the dunk contest, right? Or something. He was in it, all right? But Diallo, he's just not good at anything yet. He's really athletic, but he can't shoot the three, and he can't play defense. So I'm kind of torn on what I'm going to do with him, but as of now, I'll probably use him here and there, but he's not going to be consistently in the rotation. Mike Muscala, not going to be in the rotation, but he'll probably play a decent amount just because, you know, here and there we need a guy who could stretch the floor at the center spot, like against certain teams if Nerlens Noel really isn't cutting it, or he could even play the 4 because he's not that tall. I think he's like 6'10", so, you know, he's going to be there if we need him, and he doesn't have any trade value, so he's just going to be there, all right? There's going to be a lot of questions we have to keep our eye on throughout this whole series, a lot of things to actually look out for, and, well, of course, number one is going to be the development of our players and the use of our draft picks. See how we can actually pan out these picks into something solid in the post-Russell Westbrook era. And speaking of that alone, actually capitalizing off of that whole era that ended up as a pretty much a failure, considering that the team was never able to win a championship. But as of now, Chris Paul is here, and well, we got to see if he can actually lead this team into, you know, a solidified, maybe not playoff contention, but just something close to it, something respectable, and not just being a bottom of the league team. Or do we not want them? Do we want to have a top pick and increase our chances at getting a franchise type of player? I don't know. But on top of that, Danilo Gallinari, we have to see if he can actually kind of be that guy for the franchise. Not that guy in terms of the franchise player, but that guy in terms of the scoring leader for this team, because as of right now, he's definitely the most natural scorer for this team from the wing position. One of the other more important points is that how are we going to be able to develop a whole team, not just the top-heavy team with Chris Paul, Danilo Gallinari, and those guys? What about the bench? What about Terrence Ferguson? What about Darius Bazley? How will they pan out in the future? So we're going to need guys like that to actually end up being solid role players if we want to actually have a shot at doing anything in the future. But the biggest question of them all is whether or not this team that is in a rebuilding state for the first time in over a decade can actually come out and match the success or do better than a Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden-led core. Could we build something like that again or something even better? But that's all I've got. Stay tuned for episode 2, and I'm out. Cut.